I got a text last week from my friend Eric Hohman. You guys remember Eric? He's an Air Force combat controller. He was on our show recently and he was running for Congress out of Texas. He said, you got to connect with Connor Mathews. Quote, he's a fish dropping CCT who's climbing the ladder in the MMA world. All right. Say no more, Eric. You got it. We're on it. Connor, the controller Mathews, joins the show fresh off his 5th professional victory without a blemish on the resume to date. Let's meet Connor on this episode of Pick Up the Six podcast. The controller. What's up, my brother?
Hey, man. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing awesome. Enjoying some of my time after my fight. You know, you ramp up everything for your fight. You have your fights that usually take a week or two after, kind of relax and do your normal, all the stuff you've been neglecting. You know what I mean?
Well, it works out well, right? So you had a fight a couple weeks ago. We're recording this the day after St. Patrick's Day. So hopefully you got a little time to unwind. I got to think a guy named Connor enjoys a good St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, I did. I actually ended up going to fights up in Boston. So it was pretty cool to see a couple of my teammates fight. And then St. Patrick's Day has always been my favorite holiday of all the holidays, especially up here. We celebrate it hard.
Who'd you see fight last night?
So I had a couple of teammates fight. John Duma. He's a local guy. He fought in Bellator. He's been up and down. He fought last night in Encore Casino in Boston. So it was a big show. First big show there in the city of Boston in a long time because they had rules and regulations. So it's the first big show they had there. My friend Nick Fury fought and my friend Mitch Raposo. So I had 3 teammates of mine fight.
It's beautiful, man. Well, we had an awesome conversation. We got to meet Eric a few weeks ago and man, we developed a bit of a friendship out of it. When he shot me this text, I was like, yeah, dude, say no more. That sounds incredible. And then go back and doing a little research and watching some of your fights and seeing the way that you've come up. It's really cool. And it's this, this kind of rare breed of a guy that served in the military, not just in military, but in elite fighting units that do some really serious stuff on the ground to ensure that the big dogs in the air can come in and do what they got to do as well. So let's get to know you, man. Let's talk first about sort of your journey to the military. And then we're going to talk about getting in the fight game, which is 5-0, man, to date, which is pretty incredible. So, man, just walk me up to how life starts in the military. Cause I know it wasn't one of those like graduate, go right in. You had a little bit of time in between. So tell me your story.
Yeah. So, so I was a hockey player first. That was my first sport growing up. I knew in New England, that's a big sport around here. So I played junior hockey and I played prep school hockey. I played at a good high school. And that was my whole, when I was a kid, that's what I thought I was going to do. I was just going to, go to high school, play hockey, go to college, play hockey. And my senior year, like my last game of my senior year, I got hurt, blew out my shoulder. So I kind of missed the tryouts and I missed a lot of things that would bring you to that next level. And I just, I don't know. I kind of just lost my passion for it at a really weird time. So one thing I've always done my entire life, it was traditional martial arts. And I started doing a little bit of MMA for my sophomore year of high school. And whenever I had issues in my life, I would just always turn to martial arts as a way to just deal with the issues, just focus on something else. I've always always had a passion for it. And so that's exactly what I did after my senior year. I went back to martial arts, started training. And then my sensei at the time, actually, so that's how traditional he was a sensei. He's like, hey, let's get you in an MMA fight. So I took it. I was 2 months after I graduated high school and I was just hooked to the sport. That's all I did. I got a job as doing construction, installing solar panels. And, I just did that so I can pay for me to train. It was long days, man. I'd wake up, work in the city in Boston, come down, train at night. So it was just exhausting long days, but it was really good. I did it for 2 years. And, I realized how much of it was a grind. And then that's what kind of brought me to the military.
Yeah. So were you, all right, let me jump in there for a second. Were you pretty addicted from the beginning? And there's a different transition, man, from traditional martial arts and then into mixed martial arts. Cause now we're landing face punches, you got to fold a lot of stuff in. How was that transition like for you? And were you pretty hooked right away?
Yeah, I was pretty hooked. I think it's because even in hockey, it's a pretty you drop the gloves in hockey and you have that mentality of grinding, hitting, and all the contact. So the contact parts didn't really bother me, and then I already had a kind of knack for the just the movement of it from my traditional background. So when the fight, I just kind of was good at it right away. You know what I mean? It was that mix of everything. I kind of had the grind and I had the in the skill set to be good at it quick. So I've always just, it just clicked with me. You know what I mean? So it was always fun to me. And yeah, so I think it's just something that I just kind of had in me my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're like, I mean, up at the crack of dawn, can't even go train yet because you got to get on a job site and work. So
Yep.
then you're training at night. I mean,
Yep.
that's a hell of a grind, man. How long were you doing that?
I was doing that for about a year and a half, and the winters were rough. It was long. It was cold.
Yeah, in the Boston area?
Is Boston area. So and I was working always outside because I was installing solar panels. So you're always on the roof. So, and I was the young guy in the job. So, I'm just carrying everything up and down
Yeah.
the entire day.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a grind, but it was, it gave me a lot of perspective. You know what I mean? It gave me fuel to work harder in other parts of my life. So I think it's something that you need to do. Sometimes you need to just bite down to do things that suck so you can appreciate other things in your life. So, but yeah,
sometimes you got to do stuff that sucks to appreciate other things in your life. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. A little discomfort. Yeah. A little discomfort.
Yes, it's good. I think discomfort's good for everybody. But so yeah, that's what after a couple winters, I actually was funny. My last, it was like summer was coming up. I just worked through the winter, and my cousin called me and he's like, "Hey man, do you want to do a job as a lifeguard at a beach?" And I was just like, that sounds way better than what I'm doing right now. So I got a really good state job here for one summer before I left, which is good because it helped me get into the water a lot. I do a lot of surfing. And so when I was training up for the military, it was perfect because you had to work out, you had to go for swims. And so that's and as a combat controller, you're a lot of it's water confidence. A lot of it's being in the water and being comfortable in the water. So that really helped me out with, when I decided after that winter, I decided to join the military. After that summer, I decided to join the military, and I was already, training from fighting. So I was already in good shape from running, being physical, working out at the beach. So when I flowed right into special operations training, I was just set up in a really good manner to make it through. And
you had your first fight though already under your belt before that, right?
Oh yeah, I had my first fight. So this is I had my first fight in 2011. I joined the military in 2013.
Okay. Tell me about that first one, because I know it didn't last very long.
Yeah, no, it didn't last. I have a lot of my fights have been the same from MMA.
I've seen. You don't mess around. Just get to it.
Yeah. So actually that was my first fight ever. So my first fight I ever done was, usually other people do kickboxing and boxing first, and then they go into MMA. I didn't. Besides traditional martial arts, I went straight into MMA fighting. And so yeah, I won. I went against a former veteran, guy named Eric Hohman. He actually took me down at first. He was beating me up, and then we got up to my feet, and I caught him when we got up to feet, hit him with the right hand. He fell down, took his back, choked him out, and yeah. Then after that, man, I was hooked on the sport.
This is it. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a 19-second fight, I think, right?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a minute and 57 seconds.
19 left. 19 left in the first.
Yeah. And then I because there's 3 minute rounds, and then so from there, I realized I had a lot of holes in my game. You know what I mean? So that's when I started finding boxing. I started going to a boxing coach, this guy, Mike Avila, and I worked with him from there on. I worked with, different coaches to realize, because I was just kind of going off traditional martial arts and a little bit of jiu-jitsu. And that's what I did my first MMA fight. So then I realized there's a lot of holes. You got to learn boxing. You got to learn Muay Thai. You got to learn wrestling. There's a lot of things you got to learn. So that's when I started branching off and really kind of absorbing all the different martial arts out there.
So you've been out of high school for a couple of years. You work in the construction thing. You're still fighting. You're training. What's the trigger on the military? Because you're 10, 12, 13 years, 9/11 removed. So that's not a trigger point, right? So what was the trigger for you?
It was a couple of things. First of all, my dad is a lawyer, and he's a college professor, and he teaches law. So he's really big into education. So he's either he's the kind of guy, you're gonna work with your back or work with your mind, And I was working with my back, but I realized how bad that was. So I was like, what's something else I could do? My dad's like, you go to college, or maybe the military looks like a good idea. So I looked into the military, and I looked at Navy SEAL originally. I thought that was I saw that job. I was a physical person, kind of things I liked. So I started training up for that. And the recruiter for the Navy wasn't the best recruiter. he was trying to get me in as any typical job in the Navy.
No, man, I'm trying to do this thing.
Exactly. And he wasn't. He was just trying to get me in there. So I walked across the hall. I talked to the Air Force guy. The Air Force guy was really big on pushing pararescue at the time, which is a job where they, special operations for the Air Force. They go in, they save downed pilots or any kind of medical. They're paramedics and special operators. They're awesome.
Yeah, they're badasses. Yep.
They're super bad. So I started training up for that. And then when I took the pass test, my instructor who ran the past ever was like, "Hey man, you want to kill people? Or do you want to save people?" And I was like, I was like, "They want to kill people. I want to do like the Navy SEAL shit." And he's like, "All right, put you as a combat controller." And I was like, "All right, that's what I'm going to be doing." And I just kind of, I had no idea about air traffic control and all how complex being a combat controller was when I got the job. I literally thought air traffic control was like guys out in the airfields with like the cones on the, like, the marshalling aircraft. Like that's literally what I thought. Yeah. I was like, I think we do something like that, but it's special operations. I had no idea. Maybe
They're
we
like,
shoot
yeah, but we
lasers
give
at
you a
things and
gun
bombs
too.
with things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking like Call of Duty, you shoot a laser and then a bomb hits the thing. And like, that's all I knew. Like, and so I got in there, got into training, and I was up for a rude awakening of how academically challenging and, the grind of the career field was awesome. I mean, I loved the physical portions, the tactical portion. I loved I eventually came to love doing the air traffic control, but it was a challenge for me at first, for sure.
We've been fortunate, man. We've had a couple of cool conversations with guys connected to that community. Obviously, Eric, you, and then we also had Thad Forrester. His brother Mark was killed in combat
Yeah,
controller.
I met the family. Dude.
Oh,
Yeah,
incredible,
yeah.
man. Yeah,
I went to his. I did a run there in is it Alabama, I believe it
yeah,
was. Yeah, I did a
Oh,
run
nice.
for the family. Yeah,
Yeah, good
dude.
family, man. His brother Thad's a hell of a dude,
Yep.
and really carrying his brother's legacy on. Just
Yeah,
incredible.
unbelievable guy.
Hey, so tell me, you get into Afghanistan 2017, 2018, right? So first time in theater, downrange. What's that experience like, man, when you step foot onto that other place?
It's surreal, I would say, you know what I mean? Like you kind of like everything you had leading up to that. It's like imagining what Afghanistan's going to be like. And then you get there. It kind of reminds me of like fights and stuff. Like you're always like visualize and picture what you're going to get yourself into. And then you get there. And I would say Afghanistan was like, is more than what I expected. You know what I mean? And I think we got there at a weird, interesting time where Trump took over from, but so the ROEs kind of changed for us, and our plans is attack. We were more aggressive. So the guys that are there for the 8 years before us, they weren't going out and pushing missions as much as we were when Trump took over initially before it pulled out. We were pushing missions a lot. So it gave me a kind of cool experience of doing a lot of things that guys before me weren't even doing. I just got there at a unique opportunity and got to do some cool stuff. So it was interesting, you know what I mean? It was mind like opening to see like how other people live in other spots in the world, and it was interesting. It was good.
Yeah. All right. So Eric talked a little bit about it, but now I always love to dig into it a little bit because I think it's cool for our audience to get a sense as to what it's like. So tell me what like life on the ground, right? Like what are you doing? What are missions like for you? What's a combat control in the Air Force Special Ops up to?
So I had two different mission sets. All right. This is my first deployment, so I really didn't have as much responsibility, like, you know what I mean? Cause you kind of go there, you do a deployment and you kind of shadow people, and then you go back and do it again. However, for the first part, I did end up doing a ton because I was doing air traffic control. So they'd send me out to like airfields out, wherever they're pushing on doing missions, I would go and I'd support the mission by setting up airfields in that area and to support the direct whatever they're doing. So like a refueling point for like a helicopter, or if somebody gets shot on the mission, they land it and they'll bring it to an airfield where I'm at so they can get that guy out of there. So maybe they pick up the guy in a helicopter, they bring it to an airfield. I land a big C-130 on the ground. We load the guy up in the C-130 and we get him off, out of there to Germany or wherever they need to go to stabilize and save the guy. So I did that a lot for the first time, part of my thing. So they would send me out to like areas that are, like FOBs, and I would, just have to hang out there for a while. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of downtime in between, like let's say I was there for 6 months and I'm due like 10, 15 missions, but they've all those missions take 1 or 2 days usually. So there's a lot of time in between those that you're just hanging out in the middle of nowhere in Afghanistan, you know what I mean? Just so the mission can go off. So there was that. There's a lot of boredom, but there's a lot of cool stuff, and then, I got the opportunity to get out with the special forces team, my second half deployment, and actually do some support the JTAC, the guys who calls in the airstrikes on the ground, getting into engagements with the enemy, and you know what I mean? And that
making good on what that recruiter promised you.
Yeah, exactly. So it was cool. I mean, I wasn't where I was supporting my JTAC, so I was just kind of helping out, learning, but I mean, I was still in the fight. So that's what was cool. So I was, it was eye opening for sure, and it was it's something that made me better and stronger for today. You know what I mean? I learned a lot and I had to deal with some stuff. So it was good. It was good stuff.
Yeah, man, we don't take it for granted what you guys go through. And we always say, man, just thanks for everything you've done. And quite frankly, what you continue to do.
My pleasure.
Right now through the fight game, you're continuing to bring light to it, right?
Yeah,
The controller
absolutely.
MMA. Before we kind of move off of that, did you have a favorite aircraft that when you saw it coming in, you were like,
Yeah, I
oh,
mean,
this
so
is it.
I would say in Afghanistan, if you're a controller for me, and I can actually control it, is a AC-130
Mm,
gunship. So they have a 105 howitzer on the
yep.
side, a 45, and I should know, I was thinking a 75. So I should know that, but it's been a while. But you have one of those things flying around the battle space. So like if you have one of those in your airspace, I mean, you can do whatever. So that's the
Yeah.
best one. Obviously, Apaches are very cool because they come down, support on the missions. And I mean, I didn't get, so when I was in Afghanistan, they didn't have A-10 Warhogs. They were just coming into theater when I was leaving. So, but I've heard those are the ones that guys like the most
You
to
can hear
call
them
them in.
coming.
But
Yeah, you can
yeah, you
hear
can
them
hear those
coming.
bad
That's for
boys
sure.
coming. So
Spanky
yeah.
Peterson, who flew the Payhawk that picked up Marco Sottrell, was on our show, man, almost a
Mm-hmm.
year ago. Awesome guy. And he talked about that gunship and the confidence, right? Just the confidence it brings knowing that thing is up there and just
Yes.
getting your back. Like it's a
It's got
huge.
multiple sensors on it. So there's a team of guys that can watch the ground around you. So it's just having people being able to watch. It stays there. So other aircraft will have to check on like an F-16 or something. They'll have to check on, calling it, hit their bombs, and they're gone. And they got to go back to refuel and get their bombs. This thing will hover above you, the entire mission. So it's the best aircraft there. The only problem is we don't have that, there's not
Yeah.
everybody's getting
Yeah.
them on every mission. So,
Yeah.
but they're awesome if you can get those on.
That's incredible, man. So throughout this entire experience, right, as you're in combat zones, as you're in the military, you're still training, right? Still training up to fight, still staying active. And somewhere in your brain, it's got to be like that. I know that's the real purpose for me. Walk me
For
through.
sure.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, so like I always, like I said, like even when I was in the military, I wasn't training as much as I did prior to the military because my job was so intensive. So I had to learn to be a special operator, which took all my full brain of energy just to do that job. But when I could, it was just like a fun thing for me to do. Always like hop on the weekends. I would train with the other guys that other combat controllers. One of my good friends, George Hernandez, he actually ended up passing away, but he was a really good wrestler. So me and him would hop in the wrestling rooms, and like I would teach him jiu-jitsu. He would
Mm,
teach me wrestling stuff. And it was just, you know what I mean? It was just more of for me, it was just a fun thing to do on the weekend that wasn't drinking and partying. You know what I mean? It's just another hobby. And that's how martial arts was my entire life. But when I went to Afghanistan, I definitely I actually got lucky. There was next to where I was at, there was an MMA group on the base. So I would we
nice.
were working, I'd pop over for lunch and I'd do a
Yeah.
little bit of
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu or do some kickboxing, which was amazing in Afghanistan because you have a lot of time. So like if I had time, I was not like working, I'd pop in there, and I started doing that right before I left. So when I came home from Afghanistan, I was kind of having some mental, I don't know what it was, just adjusting back from
Sure.
that environment to normal society. And so I kind of flowed right back into June martial arts. And then that's when it really clicked to me. I had a coach, this kid, Mikey B, he's actually pretty like a big named coach now. When I started with him, he didn't really have this. Now he has like tons of followers on social media and all this stuff. And before when I started working, it was just me and him. And he actually, he ended up moving into my house and, because I needed a roommate so we'd work together every single day training even while I was going to college and I was still working in the military. And he made me so good. And so it helped me deal with all my issues when I was coming back. And that's when I started believing in myself, like, hey, maybe I can actually do this. You know what I mean? I've always had that passion. I see my friends fighting, guys I grew up with training, and they're making it to the UFC and doing really well. So when I saw them do it, I'm like, I think I have a shot at doing this. And that's what really ignited me to get to go and do what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. When did you get hooked up with Joey Lozon? Was that before that first pro fight, which is August 2019? Before that, after that, what's the timeline?
Prior, so I go up. So I go up at a gym called Lakeville MMA around here,
Mhm.
and at nights, me and my sensei, the guy I was talking about, we would go to, after we finished his class, we'd shoot up to Lozon's. And I was a kid, going through high school, and we'd hit class at his class after our class, and that's when I started training with him. And so I would train there a little bit growing up, but when I came back, I just knew that was the best gym in New
Yeah.
England, and I was like, that's where I got to train. So I just kind of moved in, started training, and got
He was
really in with
he was
them.
a bad dude.
He is. Yeah. He's fighting again against
Nice.
Donald Cerrone pretty soon. I think it's May 7th or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, he is. And he was young when he first got going. So, I mean, I think he probably had to work through some stuff, but I just remember some of those early fights. Like, man, that dude's, he's tough.
He's a tough kid. He's
Yeah.
tough, really, really, really tough
Yeah.
guy. Him and his brother, he has another brother, Danny, and they're both just absolutely just animals. So,
Yeah. That Northeast tough
jiu-jitsu.
is sometimes a different kind of breed,
I
man.
don't know what it is. I think it's the cold.
Right?
You see the Russians are like that. They're really tough. I think it's the
They're
cold.
just eating ice and like whatever.
We have Calvin Cater, Rob
Yeah.
Font. Calvin Cater's had a huge war in the UFC. Chris Montino, I don't know if he fought in the UFC recently. He went against Sean O'Malley. Just didn't stop. He's like a zombie.
I'm racking my brain. So I worked in TV from 2003 when I graduated from college all the way to like 2010. And we were in Decatur, Illinois. And there was a guy, I think it was Justin Reinhart. I'd have to go back and look at it.
I know that
got
name
a crack
for
at
sure.
the UFC. He got the crack at like a big fight on a pay-per-view. And it was against Lozon.
It was against Lozon. Yeah.
I think Joey beat him. I think Joey beat him pretty fast.
Yeah. I think he did. Yeah.
Like it was.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember that. All right. So man, August 24th, 2019, first professional bout. And this one took forever for you to take this one out. Dude, that right jab. Tell me about that fight.
So yeah, so I was pretty amped up my first time, kind of like thinking all this time, like I'm going to move home and fight. And like the build up to that, you know what I mean? Like I haven't seen my friends and family a lot ever since I was left from the military. So when I come home and I'm going to fight in front of all my friends and family, it's been like 6 years since I've been home. And I had my first professional MMA fight. So I had a lot of adrenaline and nerves going into that fight, but it was good.
I bet.
And kid walked in and I just hit him and I stepped back, hit him, and that was it. He's gone. He's done. 7 seconds. So yeah, I had a couple of those. Yeah, in the amateur as well. A couple of good fast fights.
Yeah, guys, go Google that one. It's Connor Mathews, Stacy Anderson, 7 seconds, right hand.
Yeah, it won't take you much time to watch it.
I watched it 3 or 4 times. I loved it, man. It was great. Dude, to go in that first time, you know, when it's real, right? Like, this is it, man. I'm a pro now. We're doing this. I'm right here at home. Everybody's keyed in. I mean, you said you're amped up, but to get that W, what an incredible moment, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It felt amazing. You know what I mean? It felt really good, especially to start the professionals. And now like amateurs, it's kind of like whatever happens. No big deal. It's amateurs or professionals when things really start counting. You know what I mean? If you want to make this to a career, I mean, then I need to win. So I remember that, and just gives me motivation. Every time I win, it gives me motivation to push even harder because I love the feeling. You know what I mean? I love the grind to keep it and I want to keep my record clean.
Absolutely. So the great news is, like, now I'm up and coming fighter. I'm going to get on the scene here. August 2019, get that first W. COVID, boom.
Yeah.
February, March 2020, boom, shut it down. What?
Very frustrating, man. So like, you know, everything was rolling, everything was going really good, and then the COVID hit, and I had a fight scheduled. So that I was thinking it was like 2 weeks out for my fight. So I was like basically in fight camp, ready to go. If COVID, I remember it was actually St. Patrick's Day is when I got the news that like the fight was going to be. So it was so, you know, and that was it. That's 2 years ago now. Is that 2 years ago?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 years ago, like right now.
I was like, that wasn't last year. That's 2 years. So I remember the day. It was 2 years ago. So, so like that fight didn't happen. And then there's no shows going on. So you just we got locked in our house. And I made a gym in my garage. I ordered something, get the stimulus check, and I bought mats with it and hung a bag in the garage. And that's all I did. Like I did everything I could do to make myself better by myself in my garage, in my gym. I had a couple of my buddies, once we started getting I had a couple of my buddies to come train. We couldn't go to the gym, so we would just train at the garage. So we ended up moving halfway through the pandemic. My family did. So we moved. So they're building a house. And in the meantime, my family has a farm. Like my mom's best friend, they own this farm, Chamberlain Farms, and they do weddings. So since they couldn't do weddings at all, they let us stay in like the guest house where they have the weddings and everything while our house is being built, and which was awesome because no one had any place to go. So Joe Lozon actually lent me his mats, and we would just train on. So like the really nice mats from Lozon MMA, bring them to the wedding venue. Yeah. So everybody from New England was just coming to this farm. All those pro fighters from all around were just like, they heard about it. You know what I mean? It was like undercover, like not supposed. I remember like that was the big thing. You couldn't post it on social media because like Joe would get mad, like, hey, don't post this because you know people. So everybody, that's what we did. We end up doing like an outdoor mats. Like we had a big wedding venue tent with mats in it, and everybody would come down and train at it. And that was like what we did during the pandemic undercover. So it was pretty cool. I ended up getting one fight during the pandemic in a tent as well. There wasn't any no crowd or anything like that. So that was my first time fighting, which I really enjoyed, because you always train with no crowd. So get a fight with no crowd was kind of it was
but
easy.
Wasn't it I mean, it's crazy though, right? I mean, I guess you're right. It's similar to a training session, but you feed off of the crowd when it's actually go time to make it real. But
yeah, the adrenaline I got from my ever since my last fight, it's just like the adrenaline you get from the crowd and all that music and that everything is just so much different than when you get it and just going in there and fight somebody in a cage. Yeah, it's definitely. I can't sleep after my fights usually just because there's so much adrenaline. Yeah.
So it's been a while. It's been a wild ride, man. I mean, if you think about everywhere that this world's taken you from 2011 now to 2022, and then to launch, your pro career, and then to have to do the bulk of it, through what these last 2 years have been like. But throughout that course, it's a 5-0 record, the most recent, March the 4th against Josh Hardy. So let's fast forward, man. Let's talk about the last one. What was the last fight like?
So the last one was big problem still. So since the pandemic, now I have this problem of I have scheduled opponents, and then for whatever reason they're not showing up, or they're not, whatever. Like we had a guy literally just like pull out 4 days out from his last fight, right? 4 days away from my fight. I was supposed to fight this guy from American Top Team, great camp from Florida, and he pulls out. So they found me a replacement. I fought this kid Josh Hardy, short notice. Whatever, beat him, so it's kind of like a thing where I'm trying to schedule these guys that are better, because as I progress and get a better record, I want to fight better, challenging opponents. I mean, I know what I can do in the gym. I'm confident in my abilities outside for fighting, but like I want to beat the guy so the UFC and the next level can see like, okay, this guy's legit contender to get us to the UFC. So I've been having problems with that. So I've been fighting guys like just Josh Hardy. He was good, he's 1-2 so he wasn't. He had a lot of fights in amateur, but
you got to take what you can get. I mean, the way it's been the last year, you got to almost take what you can get right now to keep yourself moving.
And I spent 6 years in the military, not 6 years fighting. So it's, I'm playing a little catch up the way it is, but I think we're going to be all right. I got a new manager this year. This guy, I signed with this guy, Tyson, actually supposed to announce that today. He's the manager for Rob Font, Calvin Cater, a lot of the other New England fighters around here. He got coach of the year last year for the UFC. So he's a local Massachusetts guy, and so I'm excited to be working with those guys and him, and I feel like he's gonna get me in the right direction, because I just need to get there now.
It sounds like we just had some breaking news here on the show.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I did just say that was an announcement right there.
It's all good. I love it, man. Yeah. So what's next? What's the journey next? You got some time off? Do you have anything scheduled coming up? And I also want to know, like, where can folks see you, man? Where can they see you? Where can they see you fight? Where can they find out about you?
So, so right now, the next thing going on is I got to fight May 27th. It's going to be CES, the same promotion I just fought from. It's on UFC Fight Pass. So if anybody wants to tune in on UFC Fight Pass, just get it's like a $5 monthly subscription, but it's easy, and the more views the better. So I have that going on first. But if anything happens in the meantime, you know what I mean? I didn't take any damage in this fight. I always stay ready to go, and so the UFC calls before, and if they need a 45, ready to go. So that's something we talked about, and I mean, I don't really like this. This is my life right now. It's what I run my own gym. I have the Controller Proving Ground. I got a gym I just started up. Start building that slow. I stay in there training the entire time to get myself ready for the next level.
Yeah. So you're always staying ready. It sounds like, right, as you're coming through this, right, with a handful of fights under your belt, knowing where the ultimate destination point where you want to be, right? Getting to the UFC is the ultimate endpoint. Yeah. It seems like in that position, you got to stay ready. You got to stay ready, because you don't know when the chance to jump on a card is going to happen, right?
Exactly. So that means, and when staying ready is mostly comes down to, for fighters, is diet. You know what I mean? It's not letting yourself just completely, like, it's like my job. I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to train. I'm going to do my workouts. I have a schedule built in that I follow all the time. Obviously, when I get closer to fights, I mostly ramp up my intensity in the training, and maybe extending the sessions a little bit longer. But I'm at the gym anyways, every day. So that's what I got to do. So I'm staying there. I just can't let myself just like, get too big so I can't make my
What are you
weight. So
fighting
that's
at?
the biggest thing.
Connor,
I
what
fight
are you
at
fighting at?
145.
So
145.
who up in the show, quote unquote, fights at that weight? So give us some names so folks can be like, man, okay, this is where he's trying to get.
So
Who he's trying to get
Max
to.
Holloway,
Mm-hmm.
Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez, Volkanovski, Calvin Cater, the Korean Zombie. So it's a stack. It's a very stacked division. Honestly, it's probably, I think, one of the best. Conor McGregor came up in the 145 division.
Yep.
So I don't think he's going back down there, but he's a big boy right now.
He's
but
got a
thick,
little bit bigger.
but
He's got a little bit bigger the last couple of
but
years.
it's the most common size human being.
It's one of my favorite weight classes to watch because I just love, the big guys are great and everything, but the way you guys are able to move and you bring so many different elements to it, I love it.
Yeah, it's that combination of like real power and speed. So it's very explosive and fast. It's a dangerous weight class. And
they're the same guys that if you were watching like a traditional wrestling bout, you're like, man, those guys do just get after it.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to be hard, man.
Yeah, you got to be. I mean, luckily, I feel like my mentality I've got from my special operations training. I think honestly, I mean, it's the only thing I can see that changed between before and after my my military career. It's just helped me so much. It trains to be more professional about everything.
Yep.
Really, you know what I mean? Treat everything professionally as like on my day to day. That's what it taught me the most. So yeah, I think I've got what it takes to get to the next level and fight those top 10 level guys. I mean, I train with them sometimes. So I get in there and work with those guys, and I know I can hang. It's just a matter of getting the fights and hitting and performing on the light and under the lights and actually doing it. So I got to prove it to myself and I got to prove it to everybody else, but I believe I'm going to be able to do it.
He's Connor, the Controller Mathews. Tell everybody where they can find you, man. Instagram, so folks can follow you and give you some support.
Yeah, Instagram would be great. I love it. Need the follows. That helps me with my progression to getting myself to the UFC.
Yeah.
So the Controller MMA, right? So I got right there. As you guys see it there, the Controller MMA is that's my Instagram. I use that the most. I do have Facebook, Connor Mathews. Don't use it as much. Twitter, Controller MMA without the V. And yeah, those are my 3 social medias that I mostly use. I mean, I use Instagram the most, and yeah, love a follow. I got a website launching this week, so I'm gonna put up all the stuff on there, and I'm gonna start selling some shirts and stuff and get that stuff going. It's hard. It's hard to do the brand when you're fighting and training so much. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this that are like, to be a professional about this, you got to have your brand. You got to sell shirts. You got to, to support myself. I don't make a lot of money fighting on these lower level teams right now, and I spend a lot of money on camp. So once I get my stuff, everything helps, to be able to sponsor and get myself going to the UFC.
Yeah. Guys, keep your eyes on them. You got fans for life in our community here.
Thank you.
Nickname, right? It had to do it, right? It
yeah,
makes so much sense.
I
had to. I love it. He is the Controller, Connor Mathews, 5-0 in professional fights, making his way through that game. And guys, the guy's just grinding, man. He just keeps getting after it every day. And you heard him talk, most importantly, right? Keep training, keep that diet in check. So that way you're just nimble, you're ready to react. And if they ever call, right, whenever they call, we know that time's coming for you. You'll be ready to roll, man. We're just so thrilled for you. One, just great to hear your story, man. Honored to be able to do it. And excited to see what's coming up here. We'll be keeping an eye on you for sure.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. He's Connor, the Controller Mathews, badass from Air Force Special Operations, and now getting work done in the ring. Thanks again, brother.
Thank you so much.
He's Connor Mathews. I'm Brian Jodis. This has been Pick Up the Six podcast.